So what we've got to do is make that change in those standards. That's where the shifts happen. It doesn't happen any other place. And I give you a very simple example. If you want to know the difference in people's lives, it all comes down to what are the things that are musts for you versus shoulds. So let me tell you this. We said to have an extraordinary life, you got to have an extraordinary psychology, right? Extraordinary psychology means you got to live in an extraordinary state. To be in an extraordinary state, you got to condition your nervous system, your body, your physiology and focus to be at their best. Do you agree with this? Yes or no? Then to do that, though, you can do that. Why doesn't everybody? Not because you can't. We all have the ability. It's because of our standards. I remember a time early in my career, I was about 24, and I went to do a seminar in Boston. And in those days, a big seminar for me was like 125 people. It was a 3-day seminar, and we worked around the clock, and people made such extraordinary changes in their life. And at the end of it, I was feeling so fulfilled. I was thinking, my God, I'm 24, maybe 25 at the time, and I am so happy because I have found my mission in life. I'm doing what I love. It's making a difference in people's lives. This is extraordinary. So we finished about midnight on the Sunday night. And around midnight, you know, I'm still wound up, so I don't feel like going to bed. So I decided, okay, you know, let me take a walk here, and I decided to go through Copley Square. If you've been through Copley Square, you know it's a pretty neat place. Because in Copley Square, you can look up and you can see buildings that were here before we were known as the United States, and beside them you see skyscrapers that are new. It's a pretty cool place. So I'm walking around midnight on Sunday night. There's nobody in Copley Square midnight on Sunday night. And I'm walking along, and I see this guy in the distance, and he's kind of stumbling back and forth between the gutter and the sidewalk. He's got a long trench coat on, his head's down like this. He's holding a brown bag, and I can start to smell him even before I get there, and I'm thinking, you know, this guy's obviously drunk. And as I started to get closer, I thought, I bet he's going to beg me for some money. And sure enough, whatever you focus on life tends to happen, doesn't it? So sure enough, he gets real close to me, and I thought all of a sudden he wasn't going to do it, and all of a sudden he popped his head up. It was really weird. He went, "Mister!" He had this really bizarre-looking sounding voice. He went, "Mister, could you loan me a quarter?" And I thought, do I want to reward this behavior? And then I thought, I don't want him to suffer. Do you have this dilemma sometimes? Like, you know, I'm not here to judge. So years ago, I finally decided I always just give. Even if the person's pulling a scam, that's for them to deal with. If I have the ability, then I give. And so I thought, but could I teach him something? So I asked him a question back. I said, is that all you want is a quarter? So he goes, yeah, just 1 quarter. 1 quarter changed my whole life. 1 quarter. I said, really? He said, yeah, 1 quarter. So I reached in my pocket, and I pulled out my money clip. And in those days, I was, you know, very young, just starting to succeed. And my original mentor was a man named Jim Rohn. I don't know, how many have heard of Jim Rohn? Anybody? Yeah, he's a great guy. And Jim told me, he said, Tony, look, you've come from a poor background. You got a poor psychology. You got to change it. He said, you don't have any money, so pretend you do. He said, start training your brain. Condition it. He said, go save all your money, get $300 bills, and put them on the outside of your money clip, even though you only have $5 in between them. So every time you put it out, you'll see that, you'll feel inspired, you'll feel better. He said, and you'll feel better, you'll do better. So I was like, okay. So I did. So I pulled my money clip, and sure enough, I got $300 bills down. I made sure he saw the bills. So I'm tearing through that, right? Looking in between there, see if I can find some change. But I made sure he saw it. Sure enough, he's looking at the $100 bills, checking it out. I find the quarter, I pull it out, take the money, put it in my pocket. I notice he's watching my hand going into the pocket. I took the quarter, and I looked at him, and I said, sir, life will pay any price you ask of it. And I gave him the quarter. And then something really interesting happened. He took the quarter. He looked at the quarter. He looked at me. He looked at my pocket. He looked back at the quarter, looked at me, looked at my pocket, looked at me again, looked at the quarter, looked at my pocket, looked back at me and said, you're weird. And then he shuffled on off like this. I thought to myself, wow, what's the difference between him and me? I mean, I was 24, 25 at the time, doing what I love most, have my mission in life, and he's in his early 60s, drunk on the street begging for quarters. What's the difference? And I thought, well, maybe God's blessed me because I'm such a good person. I thought, oh, and he's such a bad person, that's such bull. And I thought, wow, maybe the answer to that question is what I just told him. Life will pay whatever price you ask of it. But you know what's interesting? You got to ask intelligently. In the Bible it says, ask and you shall what? Yeah, pretty good formula. You ought to look into it. But you know what? It says, ask and you shall receive, but I'm sure it meant ask intelligently. I'm sure that's what God meant. I'm sure he didn't mean bitch and you will receive. Whine and you will receive. I don't think that was the instruction. Now, if you were going to ask intelligently, there might be 5 elements of that. Number one, you'd have to ask specifically, wouldn't you? You wouldn't ask in a general way. People do that all the time. They go, I want more money. Fine, here's $1, get out of here. Very often, you're getting what you're asking for. You're just not aware of how general you're asking. Clarity is power. The more clear you are about exactly what it is you want, the more your brain knows how to get there. Your brain is a servo mechanism. It's like a bomb. Those bombs, those missiles, they have a servo mechanism. So if the target moves, it knows what the target is, it follows it. Your brain, when you condition it, knows exactly what to go for and it'll find a way to get there. Did you ever buy a certain outfit or a certain car and suddenly see that car outfit everywhere? How many of you have had that experience? Say, aye. How come that car outfit's everywhere? It always was everywhere, but now you notice it. And the reason is because there's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system, the RAS. That part of your brain determines what you notice and what you don't notice. Your brain spends most of its time trying to make sure you don't notice because you'll go crazy if you notice everything. But when you decide what's most important to you, your brain goes after it. Everyone I know who's successful builds what I call an RPM plan. An RPM is built on the metaphor that the way to get from where you are to where do you want to go to the fastest is you got to build power, like in a car, RPMs. And the R stands for they know the result they're after. They know what they want precisely. If you don't know exactly what you want or you let yourself get beyond that into something general, you're not going to achieve it. Clarity is power. You've got to know the specific result you're after. What do you want? If you can't answer that question right now in your personal life, in your body, in your relationships, in your finances, in your spirituality, then you're not going to be as fulfilled as you want to be. Today we're going to have you answer one of those questions at least. The second part of it, you got to know P, why you're doing it. Because you know what? You may get a big goal. As soon as I want to make $1 billion. I want to bring peace to the earth. Why? Because as soon as you come up with a goal, all the obstacles show up. And unless you've got enough emotional drive to break through that, you're never going to discover what it really takes. So you got to get yourself past that. And the way to get past that is have enough reasons. Reasons come first, answers come second. This man did not know what he wanted. He did not have enough reasons. To ask intelligently, you got to ask specifically. To ask intelligently, you got to know why you want it, have enough drive to make it happen, enough juice to make it happen. If you don't have enough reasons, you will not make it happen. And the M is, what is your massive action plan? What is going to get you to actually follow through? Because the first plan's not going to work and the second plan's going to work, so you better have enough plans that if the first two don't work, you still got something else. Otherwise, you're going to be having excuses why it didn't work. So asking intelligently requires that. So if we're going to be extraordinary in our results, we've got to be in an extraordinary state. We've got to know what we want and we've got to go use it. Fanning didn't work and you're still a little too hot? Try this. How many of you can remember a time in your life when you were hot and you were sweaty and you were happy about it? See, it feels so much better already, doesn't it? Now, how many of you understand what are the two ways to change your state? Fastest way to change your state is a radical change in your what? Say it out loud, in your what? Physiology, which means your body, or a radical change in what you are focusing on. 3 decisions we make every moment. What are we going to focus on? What does it mean? And what am I going to? How fast can you change what you're focusing on or what it means to you, what you're going to do? How fast? That means in a heartbeat you can change your life, but you won't unless you first change your state. And you can do that. How fast? How fast? In fact, what you want to do is train yourself to go like a car. A great race car goes 0 to 60 in 3-4 seconds. A crappy car takes 10 or 15 seconds. Same thing is true of a person. A person who takes forever to change their state, they don't have much of a life. Somebody change their state that fast, boom! And all of this is a habit of directly, powerfully using your body and your focus. That's all it takes. Now, let's see how fast you can change your state. I'm going to just try something. At some point you may hear the sound like a train coming by, a train whistle. And whenever you hear that sound, your goal is, doesn't matter if you're tired, exhausted, you don't know what to do, you're tired, you don't feel like it, you instantly drop your stuff and you're going to literally go up and celebrate like crazy. And at the end of that celebration, I want you to train yourself to do something else. I want you to laugh all the way back into your chair for no good reason. Now you say, I can't laugh for no reason. Then fake it. If you fake it long enough, you'll actually start to laugh. Because as you go into that physiology, it'll happen. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, one reason is, one of my sons, for example, my second youngest boy, his name is Josh. And when Josh was a little boy, I'll never forget, he used to be kind of sad and tired all the time. And I'd say, Josh, look at your life. And I began to look at his friends. And they were all sad and tired all the time. One day, he came home with a new friend. And this little friend was an interesting guy. Have you ever noticed that some people, no matter what happens, they find a way to be unhappy? How many know somebody who's always got a problem? And if they don't have one, they find one. How many know somebody like this? Say, I. And have you ever met somebody that's not really funny, but they think they are? And they crack themselves up? And they laugh so hard at their own jokes, you find yourself laughing too? Who's ever dealt with somebody like this? Knows what I'm talking about? Say, I. Well, this little boy was not funny, but he thought he was. And he was cracking up at his own jokes all the time. And his laughter was so infectious, you laughed too. It wasn't fake, it was real. And so I said to Josh, hang on to that friend. Spend as much time as you can with that friend. Because I want to tell you something. You want to change your life? One way to change your life is change your state. Second way, most powerful way, change who you spend time with. Who you spend time with is who you become. Because if you care for somebody, if you are really an outgoing, happy person and they're always sad, after a while you don't want to be so happy because it doesn't feel good. You know, they're like, well, you're easy for you. Who here has ever dropped your own happiness so you didn't offend someone else? How many have ever done this before? Raise your hand. Say, I. But by being less happy, do you make them better? Do you make them stronger? Do you make them happier? No. But that's what we tend to do. So picking who you're going to spend time with is a critical component of what makes life work. And so with Josh, it was interesting. He spent the next 3 or 4 years, they became best friends. And to this day, my son is one of the funniest people I know, even when he's not. Because he developed that habit. Emotions are a habit because emotion comes from motion. You can change your state. If you change who you spend time with, that alone starts to change your state. 2 of the most important decisions of life. What's the way I'm going to put myself in state? Who am I going to spend time with? Those are side by side. But you also got to just train yourself that you can change that state in a heartbeat instantaneously and go into a strong state. Anytime. So now, here's the interesting thing. If all we've got to do to change our lives is make better decisions, focus on things that move us forward instead of back, give things a meaning that empowers us instead of disempowers us, get ourselves to do the things we've been talking about. And if what affects that is just putting ourselves in state, and all we got to do to change our state is make a radical change in our what? Oh, come on. In our what? In our what? Physiology, or in our focus. If it's that easy, spend time with the right people. Then why don't most people? Because, see, remember I told you before, how to do something is 20%. 80% is your psychology, which is a fancy word for really your mindset or your standards. So I want to give you real quickly here to finish up 5 keys to succeeding at anything at the highest level. And these 5 keys, to me, are really basic. In fact, when I tell you the first key, some of you are going to go, well, thanks a lot. I drove or flew all this way so you could tell me this simple idea. I could tell you something really sexy, really playful, really interesting, but I'd rather tell you the truth. And if you want to change your life in any area, you want to change your body, you want to change your career, you want to change your money, you want to change your relationships, you want to be closer to your kids, you want to make any shift in your life, the first key is always the same. And here's what it is. Write it down. Raise your standards. You know, raise your standards. How basic can this guy get? How dumb. Raise my standards. But it's the only thing that creates a lasting change, isn't it true? Now, when you use the word like raise your standards, it sounds so trivial. But let me maybe word it for you in a different way, and maybe it'll make more sense. If you want to change your life forever, when I say raise your standards, what I really mean is this. You've got to turn your shoulds into musts. Everyone in the world has a list of shoulds. I should follow through. I should, spend more time at work. I should make more calls. I should be nicer to my wife or husband or my children. I should lose some weight. I should go on a diet. I should. Who here has a list of shoulds? Things you know you should do. Raise your hand if you got it. Say I. Now, when you don't do your shoulds, what happens? You get upset with yourself. In fact, I call it you should all over yourself. And when you should all over yourself, it doesn't make anything better, right? What you're doing is, when people actually make a change that lasts, what they do is the things that used to be a should suddenly become a must. And it's not an intellectual must, it's in your body. Human beings always get what they have to have. I'll say that again. Human beings always get what they have to have. The problem is some people have to survive and some people have to succeed. If it's a must for you, you find the way. Who here in this room had an area of your life where you kept talking about making a change, and you wanted to make the change, and you were committed to making the change, but you didn't do it again and again and again? Who's done this before in your life? Let me see your hands. Raise your hand and say, I. How many have had an area where you said you were going to change, didn't do it, said you're going to change, didn't do it, over and over again, and finally one day something happened, and you said, no more, not another day, not another hour, this is done. I am out of this relationship, or I am never smoking again, or I will never follow through like this again, and you changed it completely and never went back. Who's made a change like this before? Say I. That was a moment of must, not should. That moment you changed, you raised your standard. You went, this is no longer acceptable to me. I'll give you an example. How many of you in this room today are earning much more than you used to earn in terms of your income? How many are earning much more than, say, 10 years ago? Let me see a show of hands. Much more. Very nice. And question, if I said to you, you're going to have to go back to what you earned 10 years ago, would you accept that, yes or no? No way. Most of you. Some of you, yes, because you were better off 10 years ago, but most of you, no. Right? You go, there's no way. But 10 years ago, you would have accepted it. What's the only difference between 10 years ago and now? Your standards. Now you expect more for your life, don't you? And interestingly enough, we always get what we absolutely must have. Our standard. I'll give you an example. Everyone in this room right now is earning what you must earn, not a dime more. You know, Tony, you don't understand. In my job, I can only earn so much. Nope, wrong. If you needed more money and your mother or your father or somebody was really in trouble and you loved them completely and it was a must for you to help them, how many would find a way to take care of your mother or father, whoever it was, even if you didn't have the money? How many would find the way? Say I. Why? Because it's a must. Doesn't matter you don't have the money. Doesn't matter they don't pay you enough for the work. You would find the way.